is my love of my life? How could you possibly even ask me that question?
I know, I put you on the spot.
Kate Winslet and Sam Mendes were once Hollywood's golden couple. They were admired for their talent, their love, and the powerful chemistry they shared both on and off the screen. Friends believed they were perfectly matched, and fans loved seeing Kate shine in films directed by Sam. Everything about their relationship looked strong, almost unbreakable. But behind the glamour, something slowly began to change. Not long after working together, their marriage quietly fell apart, leaving many people shocked and confused. Then one surprising name kept coming up in whispers: Leonardo DiCaprio. He wasn't part of the marriage, yet his presence raised questions. So what really happened behind the scenes, and how did Leo become part of this story? Join us in this video as we talk about Kate Winslet breaks silence on what really happened with Sam Mendes. Sam first entered Kate's world in 2001, not through romance, but through the quiet language of art and ambition. He approached her with an invitation to appear in a stage production he was overseeing as artistic director. A professional offer, measured and respectful. Kate already knew the reality before the conversation even began. Her schedule was packed, her life moving too fast to make room for theater. Still, the meeting itself felt unavoidable. As someone close to her put it at the time, "You're not going to say no to meeting with Sam Mendes, are you?" Kate would later admit that while the play never truly tempted her, the man behind it certainly did. She declined the role, but she wasn't about to walk away untouched by the encounter. At the very least, she wanted Sam's phone number, a small decision that quietly carried enormous consequences. It felt less like a choice and more like fate easing a door open. And then, as if the universe wanted to be certain, Emma Thompson stepped in. Kate's longtime friend and former co-star invited them both to a casual barbecue, never imagining that a simple afternoon gathering would redirect two lives entirely. At that moment, Kate's life was still tethered to another chapter. She was married to filmmaker Jim Threppleton, with whom she shared a young daughter, Mia. But the marriage was already fragile, quietly cracking under its own weight. Later that same year, it came to an end. Just 2 months after the separation, Kate and Sam found themselves moving closer, carefully, hesitantly, into something new, even as the world watched with sharpened curiosity. The tabloids wasted no time. Rumors swelled, narratives hardened, and scandal was written long before facts could breathe. Kate understood exactly how the story would be told. "We knew that they would say we had been having an affair," she said in 2004. "We weren't stupid, though of course it wasn't true. It was a period colored by loss and longing, by beginnings shadowed with suspicion." Love didn't arrive gently for Kate during this chapter. It came tangled in grief, public judgment, and emotional exhaustion. Yet within that storm, she showed quiet resilience, stepping forward anyway, choosing connection even when it meant carrying the weight of misunderstanding. After nearly 2 years of building a quiet, intense bond, Kate Winslet and Sam Mendes made a decision that felt less planned and more instinctive. They slipped away to a Caribbean island and married without warning, surrounded by just 3 close friends. No headlines were waiting, no grand ceremony, only a moment that belonged entirely to them. At the time, Kate was already 2 months pregnant with their only child together, a son named Joe. Looking back, she admitted the choice was sudden and unpolished. "We hadn't been planning to do it," she once said, "but we thought it was rather a good idea, so we just did it." Their marriage, though deeply loving, was shaped by an unusual and haunting fear. Kate and Sam made a strict rule never to fly on the same plane. To outsiders, it may have sounded excessive, but to them it felt necessary. Both had come uncomfortably close to death in the early 2000s, experiences that left lasting marks on how they viewed fate, family, and fragility. Sam's near miss came on September 11th. He had originally been booked on American Airlines Flight 77, the plane that would later be hijacked. Fate intervened at the last moment, sparing him. Shaken to his core, his first instinct afterward was to call Kate. Friends later said that terrifying day quietly transformed what had once been friendship into something far deeper. Kate's own brush with terror followed just weeks later. While flying from London to Dallas with her young daughter, Mia, a man suddenly stood up mid-flight and shouted, "We are all going to die!" The plane was forced to make an emergency landing in Toronto, where the suspect was arrested and charged. The incident left Kate shaken and reflective, prompting her to reassess the direction of her life and the things she could no longer take for granted. For a long time, Kate and Sam seemed almost mythically aligned. They had even been born in the same hospital, a detail that felt poetic rather than coincidental. Their connection appeared strong enough to endure public pressure, private fear, and even the strange reality of Kate sharing on-screen intimacy with Leonardo DiCaprio. For a while they felt unbreakable, bound by survival, timing, and the quiet belief that they had found something rare. Leo DiCaprio's role. By 2008, the line between Kate Winslet's personal life and professional world had grown dangerously thin. That year, her husband, acclaimed director Sam Mendes, cast her opposite her longtime friend and Titanic co-star Leonardo DiCaprio in Revolutionary Road, a film that stripped marriage down to its rawest wounds. On screen, love curdled into bitterness, exploding into brutal confrontations that felt uncomfortably real. The dialogue cut deep, full of rage, disappointment, and emotional violence, echoing the kind of words couples throw when love has already begun to fracture. Behind the camera, the atmosphere was no less tense. Friends later suggested that the project, meant to be a creative triumph, quietly accelerated the unraveling of Kate and Sam's marriage. As they worked long, exhausting days, recreating the collapse of a relationship, real-life strain crept in. Ironically, the more truth they poured into the film, the harder it became to separate fiction from reality. Sam took a deliberate step back during the most intimate scenes, directing from another room, his voice calling instructions from around the corner. He tried to keep things professional, even humorous, offering oddly specific guidance that lightened the moment for everyone except Kate. Leonardo, ever the collaborator, played along, questioning timings, pushing boundaries, while Sam deflected the obvious implications with dry wit. Later, he admitted choosing not to dwell on what those conversations really meant. For Kate, however, the experience was far more visceral. Being directed by her own husband in scenes of emotional and physical intimacy felt unbearable. She later described having a complete breakdown, overwhelmed by the strangeness of being told exactly how to touch another man, while her marriage quietly strained under the surface. Instructions that might have felt routine on any other set suddenly became unbearable. It wasn't just awkward, it was destabilizing. Though Kate and Sam announced their divorce roughly a year after the film's release, the story isn't as simple as art destroying love. In some ways, the process also drew them closer, forcing honesty, endurance, and shared survival. Sam later reflected that, against his fears, the experience went better than expected. No major explosions, no irreparable damage on set. But when two people spend 14 hours a day staging colossal arguments, rehearsing emotional destruction, and living inside the collapse of a marriage, something is bound to linger. Revolutionary Road became more than a film. It was a mirror, one that reflected not just the characters on screen, but the quiet, painful truth that even the strongest connections can fracture when reality and performance blur beyond repair. After spending endless days recreating bitter arguments on set, there was an unspoken rule when they returned home. The last thing either of them wanted was another fight. The work had drained them emotionally, leaving little energy for conflict in real life. For a moment, that shared exhaustion felt like a fragile kind of peace, a reminder that they were still on the same side. But it wasn't enough to carry them forward. By March 2010, Kate Winslet and Sam Mendes quietly confirmed what many had already sensed. They had separated earlier that year, their marriage slipping away not in one dramatic collapse, but through a slow and painful unraveling. Soon after, rumors surfaced linking Sam to actress Rebecca Hall. He dismissed the claims outright, calling them baseless. Still, those close to the couple said Kate was deeply shaken when she heard whispers of betrayal. What followed was a conversation neither of them could escape. Sam spoke honestly, perhaps too honestly, about how he viewed love and life. He believed people weren't meant to draw inspiration from a single relationship, that life unfolded through many connections. Kate's response was just as clear. For her, commitment meant choosing one person and building a life around that bond. When Sam admitted that wasn't what he wanted, the truth settled heavily between them. In that moment, they both understood there was no way forward. The marriage, as they knew it, was already over. Public accounts later softened the ending, describing two people who simply drifted apart. His relentless work schedule was blamed. Others suggested it was Kate's thriving career that created the final distance. The breaking point, some said, came when she agreed to film Mildred Pierce in New York, choosing opportunity over staying in London, where Sam hoped to remain. A year after the separation, Kate spoke with quiet maturity rather than bitterness. In an interview with Harper's Bazaar UK, she made it clear that resentment had no place in the life she was trying to build after divorce. Whatever pain existed between her and Sam, she believed it belonged to the past. They were adults, she said, and the heartbreak had not been one-sided. Most importantly, they shared a child they both adored. Co-parenting peacefully, without conflict or public blame, mattered more than revisiting old wounds. For Kate, raising their son together with stability and respect was not optional. It was essential. Yet even as she tried to protect that fragile balance, outside voices refused to stay silent. In 2013, Kate found herself unexpectedly targeted after candidly telling Vogue that her children didn't move back and forth between households. She explained that there was no rigid 50-50 arrangement. Her children lived primarily with her. What was meant as an honest reflection of her family life quickly became fuel for controversy. A UK fathers' rights group launched a public campaign using her image without consent. The advertisement paired her face with a pointed message. "Kate, every child deserves their father this Christmas." The implications struck deeply. Kate felt the message twisted her words and misrepresented her family's reality. Viewing the campaign as misleading and harmful, she took legal action, determined to defend both her integrity and her children's privacy. Sam, too, pushed back. He publicly criticized the group for dragging his family into a debate they knew nothing about. While he supported fathers' rights in principle, he emphasized that his relationship with his son had never been an issue. Their personal arrangements, he said, were not up for public judgment. By 2015, Kate reflected on her past with a rare sense of pride, not in the details, but in what she had chosen to withhold. She acknowledged that the true reasons behind her failed marriages were known only to those who lived them. The world, she insisted, didn't need every answer. No one really knows why my first marriage didn't last. No one knows why my second didn't, she said. And in a culture that demands constant confession, she found strength in restraint. Those silences, carefully kept, became her quiet act of self-preservation. In the years that followed their divorce, both Kate Winslet and Sam Mendes slowly found their way back to love, though along very different paths. For Sam, life settled into a quieter rhythm. He met musician Alison Balsam, and their connection grew away from the glare of old headlines. They married in January 2017, and later that same year, welcomed a daughter, marking a new chapter shaped by calm, creativity, and renewal. Kate's story, however, unfolded with the kind of dramatic irony that only life seems capable of writing. Love found her not on a red carpet, but in the middle of chaos. While vacationing at Sir Richard Branson's luxury villa on Necker Island, a sudden fire forced more than 20 guests to flee into the storm during Hurricane Irene. In the confusion, Kate acted without hesitation, helping rescue Branson's elderly mother from the burning house. It was a moment that echoed her most famous role, the woman who survived the unthinkable. Except this time, there was no script. Among those present was Edward Abel Smith, better known at the time by the playful nickname Ned Rock'n'Roll, Branson's nephew and an executive at Virgin Galactic. Though Kate was in a relationship then, something about the shared intensity of that night forged an unexpected bond between them. Branson later recalled her bravery with admiration, describing how she lifted his mother into her arms and carried her safely to freedom. What began as an unlikely connection quickly deepened into something certain and grounding. Kate and Edward married in 2012, choosing intimacy over spectacle. A year later, they welcomed their son, Bear Blaze, whose name seemed to carry echoes of both danger survived and hope reborn. For Kate, love arrived again, not through glamour, but through courage and chance. For Sam, it came through steady companionship. Their stories diverged, yet both carried the same quiet truth, that even after heartbreak, life has a way of offering new beginnings, often when you least expect them, and never in the way you imagine.